Hello and welcome to our second episode of Stucratic podcast. We urge you to tune in every time you feel out of tune in your life. I'm your host Sampada Pachori, director at IUC Foundation, bringing you a very specific and a most sought after concern in the minds of third year and final year students, and that is
Welcome to Stucratic FM. In today's episode, preparing for Masters Abroad. Our guests for today, Purnaditya Mishra, Tanmay Bhosle, and Juhi Yetru. Let's begin.
how do I study abroad? This concern begins with the very first question. Do I study abroad? Should I go for higher education right after graduation or after securing some industry experience? There's always a high level of dilemma in decision making towards subjects of specialization, in which country offers me best opportunity, which could shape up my future the way I want it. Well, today in our episode, we have our guests who are graduates from not so recent past. We have Purnaditya Mishra, who is an AI enthusiast and out-of-the-box thinker. He recently completed his master's in AI from University of Michigan and is currently working as an AI researcher at Miracle Labs. We have our second guest, Tanmay Bhosle, who recently completed his master's in advanced engineering management, specializing in project management from the University of Birmingham, UK. Tanmay graduated in ECE from RIT Sangli, and Tanmay is currently looking for a full-time role in UK after interning as a project management trainee. We have our third guest, Juhi Yeturu, studying Masters in Management at ESSEC Business School, based out of Paris, Stanford University Innovation Fellow, CSE background, Women at Dior, mentee this year, upcoming intern at Christian Dior Couture, dual focus on luxury and strategy through the LVMH chair. Well, I don't understand these terms, and I'll probably be asking Juhi to elaborate more on these. As you can see, I was reading out her intro. In today's episode, we will primarily focus on three key points of higher education overseas. And I think that should concern more or less most of our concerns before we get into a higher education admission. Selecting your degree and country. How and when do you start preparing to apply for admissions? And thirdly, the application process till you get an offer of admission. We will not be covering the travel and life while doing masters. That will be a subject of discussion in future episodes. So let me begin with my first question to Purnaditya Mishra. Tell me, how did you narrow down on your option of masters in technology or management? Or shall I say research or industry experience? Which one came first? Purnaditya?
Thank you, ma'am. It started basically with me going for my bachelor's first, which was in robotics engineering. While doing my bachelor's, I got exposed to AI, machine learning, and all the fun things that we can do with that, which was a part of my research as well. And that's when I realized that, okay, this is something I want to build my career in. And the best way was to get more knowledge. Hence, I chose the option of doing my MS in AI. So that was the first decision I made that I had to do my MS in AI. And after that, the next decision was finding the right university, which went hand in hand with finding the right country as well. So that included actually quite a few months of research where I was going through the course curriculum and the performance rankings, research opportunities, and a variety of other aspects related to each and every university. I made a whole list, and using that, I was sorting it out. And finally, I decided that, okay, University of Michigan offers me the best opportunity, and here I am.
Thank you, Purnaditya. However, I have a few more questions on this answer that you gave regarding AI. What made you decide that you should go for a master's in AI or get an industry experience, a real world experience in AI? How did you how did you make up your mind about that?
Okay, that is a very good question. So obviously, I first started with looking for jobs because we had to look for internships as well. So my focus was on getting something related to AI where I get to work with large language models or generative AI or a combination of AI and robotics.
Mhm.
And while doing that, I realized that the industry right now is looking for only very highly trained professionals. And most of the job openings, they had the fixed requirement that you have to be either a master student or a PhD. So that led me to believe that, okay, I need a lot more knowledge. And obviously, since I was doing a bachelor's in robotics, my knowledge in AI wasn't very limited to just the hobby projects that I used to do and some other articles that I used to read. And that made me realize that I need a lot more knowledge than I have currently. And obviously, I need the certifications as well. And that's how I decided masters in science and AI is the way to go.
And during which year did it dawn on you that it should be uh, higher education in AI and not a direct entry into industry?
This happened pretty much in the beginning of my third year of engineering, because by the end of second year, I had an interest in AI, and that's when I started looking for potential jobs and internships in the domain. And then I found that I need masters, and also with masters, you can approach other countries as well with better opportunities, because US is pretty much leading the AI forefront in research. So one thing led to another, and it was MS in US.
Mhm. So, well, we would want to know more on how you prepared for it, but I think we should also go to the next speaker we have. So, Juhi, would you want us to know how did you decide on which master degree would you choose, or which master program would you choose, and whether you should have gone for an industry experience or directly get into masters first?
Thanks for the question, ma'am. Well, my story starts all the way in my childhood. Growing up, I'd grown all across Asia and I adored getting an exposure into different cultures, different disciplines. And I was so geared towards it. Well, I did my high school in Saudi Arabia. And at that point, I decided to go for biomath. We had a CBSE school then. At the end, I was feeling a bit left out because I didn't get to pick up coding, I didn't get to pick up the commerce and humanities streams, and I really wanted to do everything. So at that point, I already decided that to have a career that's as multidisciplinary as possible, business seemed to be the way to go. I was also doing coding as a hobby, and I had this discussion with my parents, of course. They wanted me to become a doctor, as is the Gargarga Kahani in India. Biology was my star subject. But at that point, I realized, given how the world is going more towards digitalization, it's fundamental that I have a foundation in computer science first, and thus my degree in bachelor's. But this was also a decision that I had made with my parents, where we decided that it's time that I go back to India to reconnect with my roots. And I'd always known that for masters, I will be going out, that I will be going for a business degree. But at that point, even during engineering, of course, you could say, oh, why don't you just start with your startup or something? Why do you have to go for a master's degree for this? Well, I did do that during the lockdown because I do read a lot. I enjoy East Asian novels in particular. I had my own startup with my co founders in the translation and publishing industry. And I'd worked on this for nearly 2 years. We had nearly 70 employees at the peak from all over the world. But there were so many gaps that I'd noticed. I'd approach everything on a trial and error basis, and there were many blind spots per se. And that really made me solidify my decision that I definitely needed to get a degree in business, not just to, well, have a degree to my name, but to really get to the roots and the fundamentals. At that point, when I graduated, I had not applied to placements. I knew that I did not want a career in engineering, even though I really appreciate all that it had given me. It changed my way of thinking completely. At that point, I was in this crucial crossroads. Yes, do I get an MBA? Do I get a master's in finance, master's in management, entrepreneurship? Oh, there was so much that I could go for. At that point, well, I had grown all over Asia and I wanted to go into a new realm. I wanted to go to new countries and discover more. At that point, I realized that I'd rather go to Europe for my master's degree. And then I started evaluating my options. I could have gone for an MBA. It's a classic, right? But an MBA degree is, well, it's only valuable if you already have some experience. Yes, I'd had my startup, but it was not 3, 4 years of experience, right? And in Europe, rather than MBA, they prefer the Masters in Management, which is a pre experience degree. You need to have less than 2 years of experience in order to do it. You can come from any origins. Even amongst my classmates, I've got doctors, I've got politicians, I've got lawyers, I've got people from every discipline. And yeah, at that point, I went for the QS rankings, of course. Mine was very direct. I just pulled up the top five, applied to the top five, got admit letters. And between those, there are several schools that go for a 1 year degree, for instance, SAD. But my intention here was not to get my degree done as soon as possible. I wanted to explore. I was leaning more towards strategy consulting, but I wanted to have the flexibility to go for other options, to experiment a bit. And ESSEC, the school that I'm currently in, it's valued for its flexibility. You can do it in 1 year, you can do it in 4 years, you can take time off to do your own internships or apprenticeships. And well, yes, the things that you were mentioning earlier, the names. Well, in ESSEC, we have a system called chairs and tracks. For chairs, along with the school itself, you are tied with the company. So we have live training and very specific courses with them. Because I was very interested in learning about culture. I'm very fixed about spending my 20s here. I thought, what better way to learn about it than through heritage houses? LVMH, Louis Vuitton, and Moet Hennessy. It's a conglomerate that have nearly 80 maisons, 80 different brands under their name, and Dior being one of them. Christian Dior Couture is their fashion side of it. Women at Dior is something that actually IUC and EWB have helped me get. It's geared more towards NGOs. It's a collaboration with UNESCO, and I'll be working with them for the next 1 year to develop a project towards a non-governmental organization.
Wow, that's so. I mean, it's a very big web, and I think that leaves me with a lot more questions for you, Juvi. Apart from how did it dawn on you? When did it dawn on you? My immediate question to you is, what was your source of information which helped you decide uh, where to go, what exactly to do? You must have gone through several links or sources, and I think it would help your juniors to know how do you arrive at this decision making and how do you connect all the dots and what is the source of all the dots.
Definitely, ma'am. So, nearly an year before I graduated, near the end of my third year, I'd signed up for online platforms. You know, you have these open days with universities all across the world. It can be Harvard or it can be Duke, it can be the Ivy Leagues. They have several career forums online where you can just register, and for a whole day you have a several set of meetings where you go in and you hear the ambassadors speak. They speak about their program, they speak about what are the criteria to get in, and they give you contacts to reach out to them further. So it's around that time that, and also because there were a couple of friends of mine who wanted to go to a similar degree, that I got to know masters in management existed. But after that, it was really a deep dive on my part. I Google is your best friend. Like, you got the internet on your fingertips. Yes. Well, that was pretty much it. Like, just I researched. Did I approach a lot of people? I only did that after I was done with writing my GRE exam. So at that point, I knew I wanted to get a MIM. But about the schools themselves, I went to LinkedIn directly and I typed in the name of the schools, and every school has student ambassadors linked with them who are more than happy to speak with you, to speak about their experience frankly. And I used to go for cold messages, cold calls. Hello, hi, I'm in this place. Is it all right if we have like a 20-minute conversation anytime is possible? What also helped me a bit is I had gone for a gap year after I was done with my engineering. So for the year of 2023, from around September to March, where I did get my admit letters, I was preparing for GRE, for TOEFL, and also to pick up on all the other subjects that I'd missed out while doing engineering, for instance, geopolitics or financials. But yeah, it was just me having the space and some time allocated for me specifically to reach out to people and to connect with them.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Juhi. So, in fact, I'm going to now call in our third speaker, Tanmay. So, Tanmay, continuing from the aspect of uh, how did you choose your degree program? I think I would also want you to focus on something that Juhi just now touched upon, which is about the preparation and the competitive examinations that you have to give. When does it begin? When is the right time to begin? And when did it begin for you? And how did you arrive at the degree program that you have chosen for yourself? I know these are a lot of questions, Tanmay, but I hope you'll be able to take them up one by one.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. First of all, thank you. And I'll begin with my bachelor's degree. So I've got a bachelor's in electronics and telecommunication from RIT, which is in Sangli, Maharashtra. So yeah, pretty much like everyone else, I wanted a degree in engineering because like that is the best option once you have scored good in your 12th or like +2 examinations. So the first and second year was like pretty normal. I was just focusing on the modules that I had. But when COVID hit and I had plenty of time for me, and just I was just exploring other options that I can do after my bachelor's. So first option was to just go out and do any other jobs or do internships or apply for any other programs such as like graduate programs and everything. But then I thought of I'll do masters, and not just in India but abroad, and I looked out for other opportunities that were apart from US, and I stumbled upon UK first of all, but I did not finalize UK then. My primary goal was to go to US, but then it was a 2-year course, and the entire cost was going up to 60 lakhs or 70 lakhs in some cases as well. So yeah, like due to family pressure, and you can say like there are certain restrictions that you have from your family, that there's a certain budget that you can just put in your master's. So I thought like I'll go with another 1-year course, and which is why I finalized on UK. So which was not a good decision to finalize the country first. I would always say that finalize your course first, what you want to do, and then I stumbled upon all the courses that I had and what I can do after my engineering. I wanted to explore the management side of engineering, and as Juhi said that she has done a master's in management, which is a booming career right now, a booming course like MIM. But similar to that, there is a degree in MEM, which is Masters in Engineering Management. And this degree was pretty much in the news at that time. And so I went out for it. I like talked with many people. I met people around and who were planning to do their masters in engineering management, who were from my college or who were like about to go for engineering management, because there were other groups online. And like that time I wasn't much acquainted with LinkedIn, but I had Facebook, and I could just go on Facebook and just ask them about how was their approach and what all uh, like examinations do they have to give, how do they prepare for it. So yes, so that is how I came upon engineering management, and that is when uh, I just finalized UK as my master's, like my destination to complete my master's. But during my third year of engineering, I started preparing for the GRE and TOEFL and IELTS. Like that is an optional for you. You either give IELTS or either give TOEFLs. But GRE is like an important examination for you. But like I gave GRE, and then I got to know that UK does not need GRE. So it's not a mandatory requirement in the UK that you must give your GRE then. But I have already given my GRE, and then I gave the IELTS examination, which was in August 2020. And like the preparation is pretty much straightforward. You can join any of the academies, and they will guide you. And it usually takes around like 3 or 4 months for your preparation if you're like already working on your course assignments and like projects, university projects. But if you're giving yourself some time, so you can always do that in 2 months as well.
Thank you, Tanmay. So, to all the listeners out there, I think you can pretty much see that the three guests that we have today, Tanmay, Purnaditya, and Juhi, they bring you an aspect of their masters done in different countries. While Tanmay chose UK and Purnaditya chose US and Juhi chose France, to be precise, in Paris. The other thing that I notice is that you have chosen masters in science, One has chosen masters in pure management, and then of course an engineering management, which is an interesting blend of engineering with management. So I like the diversity, which also points out to the fact that the preparation may not have been similar for all three of you. And while I do understand finances play a big role in the decision making regarding the degree and the country, um, I would like to again go back to the three speakers and ask them, how did they manage the decision, or how did finance impact their decision with respect to the degree program they chose and the country they chose? And when did they start uh, understanding the financial aspects, and how did they finance their degree program in the first place? Tanmay, would you like to begin with that first?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. So as I said earlier, that masters in UK was of only 1 year course, and the finances that I calculated for masters in UK went about 30 or 35 lakhs maximum. So if I were to do a master's from the Russell Group universities, which is the Ivy League for the UK, so the maximum tuition fee is about 30 lakh rupees. And then you have to show another 10 lakh rupees as your uh, like visa requirements, because you have to show the visa agency that you have some amount with you and you can sustain with that for the next 1 year, even though you don't have any part-time, or like that doesn't matter. You just have to show it. It's a mandatory requirement. So yeah, we had to prepare for that. You can take some amount from your parents, but I chose to go for an education loan, because this way I would not put much of burden on my parents, and I can take responsibility of my own expenses when I am in the UK or when I complete my masters. That will also give me some credibility for my masters. So I went out for education loan, and that is like a completely different topic, I would say, because like the entire process is so long. So how do you approach the loan lenders and everything? But considering this factor, if you don't want to spend much on your masters, you can go for other universities which are like tier 2 or tier 3 universities in these abroad countries. But my personal preference would be, if you're going for a masters, you always go for the higher universities. And it's not always difficult, but like they do have certain criterias. They do prioritize the candidate and like what they have done in the past, their like volunteering experience or their project experience or research experience. So that does matter a lot. So yeah, from my experience, I would say I like always go for the Ivy Leagues or the Russell Group universities, which are in the abroad, even though you're spending like 5 or 10 lakhs more, but that always has some value in the end when you're looking for jobs, or that has some perspective, like prospects in the future.
Brilliantly captured, Tanmay. I think that's a very profound point you just made out there. I would like to hear from Purnaditya. Does it echo in your case as well, or what was your experience with respect to the finances and the selection of the degree program and the country?
Yes, sir. So finances do play a very major role when it comes to making such a big decision that you want to study abroad, because obviously you will have to fund your tuition fees. Along with that, you also have to sustain yourself. So there are lots of extra costs hidden behind, and you need to have some funds ready for a rainy day. Maybe you fall sick, maybe something happened. So from my family, we didn't have enough to like sustain everything. So I too went with the same option, get an education loan. And because of this, I was actually considering going to UK because, as Tanmay mentioned, that UK has 1 year masters, and obviously, if you are studying for 1 year, it will be like way cheaper as compared to US, where your degree is of 2 years. And in general, US is more expensive, so that was a factor. But I went with the student loan, and I said to myself that okay, if I'm going all in, why not spend as much as we can? So I got a pretty huge loan. That's the thing, and repayment will start. But I mean, you don't go for masters without some belief in yourself that you will be able to repay that. So that is a thing that you have to have faith in yourself that okay, even if I'm spending too much, fine, I will get a job and I will repay it back. So I just said that to myself, got a huge loan, and applied for a master's. And as Tanya mentioned, a very important part that we have to also have some money ready for your visa. So that is something that you have to show in your bank account. So I just spoke around, contacted some of my family, friends, and my parents obviously helped a lot. And we were able to show the amount required for the visa applications. Coming to preparation, it was actually pretty straightforward for me because the only exam that I had to write was IELTS, which was just the English proficiency test. And when you apply for IELTS, you get a preparation book as well, which has the audio TD for your listening test. And if I'm not wrong, I took 1 month to prepare, and I wrote my exam on 22nd September 2022. And it was pretty easy, straightforward. We have been studying English since our childhood. So also your scores don't matter. As long as you have just cleared the basic threshold, it doesn't matter if you get like 9 or a 7. So I just cleared the basic threshold and I was good. I got 8 out of 9. So that lets me apply to pretty much any university in the world. Finally, for US, you also need to give a statement of purpose and a letter of recommendation. So since I did not have any industry experience, I was fresh out of college, so I got both of my letters of recommendation from my faculty and my HOD. For statement of purpose, that was something I had to literally dig deep and find the motivation. Like I had to articulate my motivation and showcase that how it will be helpful to get a master's degree and how that will boost my career. And yeah, that kind of summarizes the process.
Thank you, Purnaritya. Would Juhi also be willing to add her perspective on the finances and the selection of degree program and the country?
Yep, most definitely, ma'am. So for this, I'll have to divide what I'm saying. I'll try to keep it short to several sections. First, if we focus on the finance aspect of it, when I was choosing my bachelor degree, I was leaning towards getting an international business management for my bachelor's. But that's the case. In Saudi, after you cross the age of 18, after you finish with your 12th, everyone either returns to India or they go to other countries to do their bachelor's. There's not much per se to do a university degree within Saudi. But at that point, this was a crucial decision that I had with my parents back then. That if I choose to compromise a bit for my bachelor's, because my college VBIT, it had a wonderful amount of opportunities, but also it was at a much more affordable price point. It allowed us to plan more, to really save up as a family towards masters. Later onwards, I should say that if you're focusing 50% of your effort and time on your master's applications, the other 50% you should be focusing on sponsorships. Unfortunately, I did not know enough to have focused on sponsorships as much as I should have. And well, we have rolling admissions throughout the year, right? By the time I applied for the third round, most of the sponsorships were over. So if you do want to get a better chance at getting scholarships, one, apply to as many as possible, even if they're obscure. But also, like the Forte Foundation, you could go for those. Especially if you're a woman, there's much more choices for women in business, da 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 da. On the other hand, try to go for an earlier round, one that starts around September to get a higher shot at getting it. The third thing that really helps with finances is my degree, right? We have an option to do apprenticeships. One, as someone who's under the age of 26, I am treated with a lot of subsidies by the government of France. I get, for example, a housing allowance to help me with pay with my rent. It might not cover everything, but it really helps. I get very student specific offers in terms of my bills. On top of that, the apprenticeship option is not open for every university, but my university is one of those that are eligible for it, where we, for example, we work for 3 days at a company, 2 days at just study at school, and the company takes care of our tuition. So this is why many people, even though they can complete the degree in just a year and a half if they really want to, they choose to stay at least for 3 years. So the first year they're very chill, they rely on their loans and everything. The other 2 years they're very likely to sign an apprenticeship contract. So even if you already paid, they sort of tend to reimburse you about it on top of you earning a full-time salary. So this was also one of the reasons I chose ESSEC out of the schools that I did get my admits from. As far as the preparation side of it goes, well, um, It depends on which school you're applying for. For instance, schools like the London School of Economics, they really focus on your GPA and your academics. If you're applying to somewhere like INSEAD, they focus on your like extracurricular activities, things like that. So really research into the school that you're going forward and what sort of profiles that they're really looking for. This is something that I had a conversation that I had with a family member of mine. He was applying for MBAs as well. He said, well, look, if you are applying to a foreign university, you might be tempted to think, oh, I just need a high academic score, I need a high GRE, GMAT, or TOEFL score, and we're good. But when they are considering you, they're not checking whether your scores are good. Instead, for instance, let's take my profile. I'm an Indian female with a background in technology. There's also tons of other Indian females with a background in technology. What sets me apart from them? Is it my academics? Is it my extracurriculars? Is it my industry experience? Is it a mind boggling essay? Like, what really convinces you is you have to set yourself apart from other applicants who share your same generic profile. In my case, other than the startup that I had multiple club experiences, multiple leadership positions at BVIT. I'd say, had I not done those, had BVIT not provided me the opportunity to really try to step out of the box, step outside of the classroom, it would have been a much tougher application to go forward with. On the other hand, you could always choose to go with a consultancy. It hasn't been mentioned before, but this was a question that I'm always approached with, especially with aspiring students. Should I apply by myself or should I go through a consultancy? I will tell you this. From the very beginning, I sort of had more belief in what I would be able to submit in terms of my essays if I had written it myself, as opposed to approaching through a consultancy. Maybe it's just a personal choice because I'm a perfectionist, and if something I write has a little bit of issues, the grammar Nazi in me really kicks out. But on the other hand, I did try to just check for one of the online sites. Let's see my eligibility score. How likely am I going to get? They said I was not eligible for the top 50 schools based on my profile, that I should really try to aim lower or I should subscribe to the services. And really, I was like, nah, I am going to apply to the top 5. That's going to be my golden ticket into going to the career trajectory that I want to go to. And I'm not going to let myself be told by someone else that I'm not going to be able to make it. Anything else that I could mention? Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Oh, I mentioned about these forums that you could attend to know more about universities, right? I looked it up real quick, and the website that I'd applied to is called the MBA Tour. And they have several programs throughout the year for this. Or if you're a woman in particular trying to go for an MBA, MIM, or something in particular, there is this website called MBA Chic, where you get connected with other women in your professional network to really help you understand where you want to proceed. As far as the application, the preparation side goes for GRE, I spent 3 months in total. I spent 3 months. I just self-studied. I went online to this website. It's not sponsored, by the way, but it's called gregmat.com, gregmat.com. Just $5 a month, and that was more than enough preparation to proceed with it. For TOEFL, I spent maybe 1 week because we already, as they say, if you are strong in terms of vocabulary, in terms of English, try to go for a GRE. If you're strong in terms of numbers, take a GMAT. It's as simple as that. I picked up a bit of Latin, so TOEFL was smooth sailing for me. So yeah, that's about it for my preparation end.
Fantastic. Isn't it fantastic to actually hear through the thought processes of the three of you and your belief in yourself and your zeal to be perfectionist and your want to get into what you really wanted to achieve. So while the standard norms of the society might tell you otherwise, but it's very nice and inspiring to hear you say that you made a decision for yourself and you worked hard to get it. Brilliant. So I think the best part of this conversation has been on how and let's also now look at the part of application processes, and that's where things are not in your control, because what we have focused on till now is everything that you could control, everything that determined how strong you are with yourself. But the application process is an unpredictable space. Things can go wrong even when everything that you have tried to do is according to the books. So I would like to probably start from Purnaditya and understand uh, how did you handle the challenges of application process? What were the key challenges you faced in the application, and how did you overcome them?
So yeah, application process was actually pretty fun. Once I had a list of universities that I wanted to go in, the next thing I did was I checked out the course curriculum. So that gave me an idea of what they are going to teach you. So if you know what they're going to teach you, you also can get an idea of what they expect from you, like in the form of prerequisites. And simultaneously, you can check out if your university focuses on research or if it focuses on hands-on knowledge. There are some universities that actually prefer that you get some kind of work experience before you apply for your master's. So that is something that you might want to keep your eye on. You can gather all this information pretty much just by visiting the university website and go to the course page. They usually have a list of prerequisites that we expect the students to have proficiency in calculus or in Python or anything depending on your course. So in my case, I was needed to have proficiency in calculus, Python, and some other stuff. Based on that, I tailored my resume to show that I do meet these prerequisites. And University of Michigan focuses pretty much a lot on research work as well as hands-on experience. And I had the opportunity to work on quite a few projects, so that really helped me out a lot. I showcased my projects on my LinkedIn. I showcased them in my resume, and I mentioned the same on statement of purpose as well. Finally, one thing that usually gets overlooked is your soft skills. Um, so when you're applying for universities, at least that's the case, especially in US, that they don't want you to just be a bookworm. That fine, anybody can read and excel and all that, but they need you to have some extracurricular skills as well. Maybe sports, maybe leadership. So that's pretty much where IUCEE helped me a lot. I was a vice president at the KG Tech chapter, and I was able to explain about that. I was able to explain my experience. I was able to showcase that in my resume, in my statement of purpose. That was also reflected in my letter of recommendation since I got it from my chapter advisor. And that really helped me a lot. In fact, that has helped me during my master's as well. I became the technical lead of Google Developer Student Club, and I'm also a mentor in Google Developers Group, Ann Arbor and Detroit. And that also ended up helping me in getting a job as well. Because during our job interviews, they usually ask that, okay, what do you do apart from studies? What are your soft skills? So I was able to showcase my leadership skills, and that has helped me get a job where I ended up leading quite a few teams on a variety of projects. Um, yeah, other than that, application process is pretty much straightforward. You have to fill out a form, upload your resume, and yeah, you cannot use the same resume everywhere. You have to tailor your resume based on your profile, based on whatever university you're applying for. And statement of purpose definitely changes because each university has a different focus and each university has different offerings. Some university will offer you better research experience. Some university will offer you a better project experience. So you will have to tailor your profile based on that and your application. And uh, your best bet is definitely approaching your seniors. Stucratic Radio helps you with that. And LinkedIn is also your best friend. Just go to LinkedIn, type your university name, contact everybody as you find them. As Juhi mentioned, cold calls, you might not always get a response, but once you do, you can just burst them with questions, do a rapid fire round, ask them each and everything, and they will guide you through it.
Thank you, Purnaditya. Tanmay?
So, yeah, regarding the application procedure, as I've already mentioned, but I would like to mention one thing that I missed out earlier, which was regarding scholarships. So while you're applying, there are many scholarships because Julie touched on that point. She mentioned the funding resources. She explored. But yeah, when I was applying, I looked out for scholarships from the universities because, as I said, like if you're going to Russell Group universities, it is always very difficult to manage all the like expenses and get a huge amount of loan. So you can look out for scholarships, and luckily, the University of Birmingham, they were offering scholarships. So like there were multiple scholarships, but my course particularly had like 2 or 3 scholarships which I was eligible for, and I applied to all of them. And then in the end, I was like granted with £3,000, which is like around 3 lakh rupees of scholarship, which was not much, but it helped me in some way. And regarding the eligibility criteria for universities, as Purnaditya mentioned now, so it differs like with university to university. Like few of the universities, they value experience after your bachelor's. Few don't matter like for them, because my university and for my particular course, there was no prerequisite like that, that I should have some experience. But I showcase my experience from research paper that I have already published, which was in project management, and like it was a very extensive research of 3 different case studies. So I wrote a lot about that in my SOPs. And then I also like leveraged my experience from the IUCEE leadership positions that I've held. Like firstly, I was president at the RIT student chapter. Then I've also worked at ISF as the co-chair. So it really helped me a lot because I could showcase my leadership skills. And for my particular course, which is specializing in project management, leadership like holds a very prominent position. So it is very important to be a leader if you're applying for project management roles. So yeah, that helped me a lot to get into this like course. And like uh, universities in UK, they mostly focus on assignments. Yeah. So I always like made sure that whatever I've learned from my courses in like in college in RIT, so I like put that into my SOPs in terms of like practical experiences, like how I used my theoretical knowledge to show some like real world real life scenarios and implementations. So this also helped me to get into the university and to into other universities as well, because as Punaditya mentioned, like you cannot only apply to like one university and you have to tailor your applications everywhere. So even I applied for like 6 universities in total, and all of them were Russell Group universities. And I got like acceptance from 5 of those universities. The one university which I did not like, I wasn't accepted, was because I wasn't having any previous experience. As I mentioned, like there are few universities which do require some experience. So in that case, I wasn't accepted, but for the other 5, I got accepted. So this is pretty much the process. Like you have to look out for the prerequisites, the scholarship options, and what they really want from you.
Thank you, Tanmay. While, yeah, the question would always remain as to how do you come up with the optimum number of applications that you put in. And I think I'll go to Juhi on her point where she said that she did a lot of self-evaluation, self-assessment, and that also helped her to decide. But continuing with this part, Juhi, how did you handle the application process and the challenges which came along with it? How did you overcome them?
Yes, ma'am. So for them, they went more towards a tech or engineering management. So by some extent, engineering allowed them to have a portfolio that they could submit. But in my case, I was going to a completely different industry, and there wasn't a portfolio that I could showcase my work with, per se. In this case, my application had to be quite holistic because I've got to say, ESSEC is sort of similar to IIMs in India. So people here specifically set years of their life after the 12th grade, 2 years, they just go for preparatory school. They have something very competitive to get into these schools as local French students. So when they are choosing international students, they tend to go for the cream of the crop, and sometimes it really helps if you've already been proved as such. For instance, if you've done your previous degree at a prestigious university, maybe it could be your IITs, you're immediately taken up just like that. In my case, yes, my college was very, very supportive of all the different initiatives that I wanted to do. They allowed me to have international exposure and also mentor multiple students, have multiple leadership opportunities as president of several associations. But the point comes from the fact that obviously, if I say BBIT, everyone's, oh, where's that from? I had that question mark to really deal with. That was the one thing that really affected my application process per se, because I couldn't find it in the list of drop down universities either. I had to directly go to JNTU, the university that my college was associated with. On the other hand, you have to think about what you could do for the rest of your portfolio since there's no work you can showcase. You might not necessarily be from IITs or IIMs already. You are from an engineering college, like that's how you're going. What you could focus on are five different things, and I'll list them here. Work experience, as mentioned before. Have you already done something similar? Have you demonstrated how you work in a team? They want to know how you work in a team, right? The second thing could be your leadership experience, associations, group projects, anywhere where you decided to take the initiative and lead the people. And also how you tackle challenges when they arrive at you. How do you respond in situations of crisis? The third thing that you could go for is your ability to contribute to the classroom. I would say, as a business school, for us, we really go for the learning by doing, but also the case study format, where you end up learning as much from the experiences of your classmates as you do from the professor. So, when you are going to this university, you have to demonstrate to them that, yes, I have my own piece that I could contribute to enhance the classroom atmosphere, to contribute to this discussion and enrich everyone's knowledge in this particular subject. So here I could use my past startup, but also my experience living in different countries growing up. This comes to the next point, your international exposure. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have lived, because as an Indian, you already have a diversity of cultures. You want to be able to show that you are accepting to different sorts of people. That's what they mean by international exposure. It's not about how many different people you've met, but rather how you're able to mesh together from people whose mindsets, whose origins are completely different from your own. Are you able to communicate with them? Are you able to coexist with them? Are you able to enrich each other by just being in the same room? For me, yes, because I'd lived in multiple countries growing up, that helped. But that was not the sole criteria. It was the fact that I could speak multiple languages, so that shows that not only was I just living there, but I was willing to integrate myself into the local culture because I am a mix of all these people. And the final point I would say is your willingness to learn. Yes, you might not have the same experience. No, you're not even from the same background. Yes, you're an engineer. That sets you apart from other people. That already gives you a certain ability to contribute to discussions. But when you are presented with this extremely big obstacle, something that you'd never touched before, do you have the will inside of you, the initiative inside of you, to really take the ball into your hands and demonstrate that yes, you are willing to learn? You're here today. You're not playing. You're there in all seriousnesses to learn, and that's the fifth point that they focus on. So these five, how do you demonstrate it? It's based on your essays. It's based on the letters of recommendations. It's not really a letter per se, but rather a questionnaire that was sent to my recommenders, where they were asked to ask, oh, what are this person's strengths and weaknesses? How does she act in a team? What was the time you thought she will absolutely fail? And they had to answer these questions based on their perceptions of me. So not only were they asking me for my own story, where I was creating my essays, right? I was giving them a narrative that leaves a bit of suspense because they read this profile and they have to think, you know what? I want to ask more questions. Let's go to the interview stage. Because once you clear the initial interview, like you go up to the interview call, then the power is back in your hands again. You can demonstrate to the other people, you can speak with them, you can convince them. The first real stage that you really have to tackle with is getting that interview call. That's nearly like 60 to 70% of the process. Like you get the interview call, 70%, you're already there. Anything else? I think, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Brilliantly captured, Juhi, yet again. Purnaditya has raised his hand. I'm sure there's something he would want to add to this. Yes.
Yes, Sam. It is pretty much in addition to what Tanmay and Juhi have said. The most important factor that you have to keep in mind while applying for your masters is believe in yourself. If you're not confident in yourself, that will reflect in your applications. Just like Juhi said, when she checked the portal and it said that no, you are not eligible for this, you should like aim lower. She went higher. That is what you have to do. Like there is nothing known as that you're not eligible for this or you are not made for this. You want to apply for top universities, you do it. You will get it. Yeah. Also, lot of constituencies, you'll meet a lot of people who will be like, no, this is too high of a shot for you. Aim for maybe 100 plus ranked universities or 200 plus ranked universities. Don't listen to them. You
Mhm.
apply for all the universities you want. And if you
Agreed.
believe in yourself, you can do anything. Like that will reflect in your statement of purpose as well.
And that's very profound, Purnaditya. So yes, that those were brilliantly captured points, and I'm sure a lot of listeners who would go through this podcast would gain a lot from this. But I also feel there will be several new questions which will emerge. Since we cannot cover a long discussion in every episode, so we would like to limit this episode here. While there are still questions bubbling in my head, which I would want to ask the speakers, but what we can do is two things. Listeners, if you have questions, feel free to put them as comments in whichever channel you are listening to us. And very soon, Apoor will tell us how and where you can find this podcast episode uploaded, and which would be the best channel to put your comments as your questions. We would also be happy to take ideas for more topics or more episodes that we would be recording in the future. Our plan is to record 2 episodes per month and keep releasing them every alternate Sunday morning. With that being said, if there is anything as a last point which I may not have inquired, or if the speakers want to add, they're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I would like to hand it over to Apoor so that he can wrap up the episode and let the listeners know what they could do next.
So, when you are doing your master's application, I want you to look into yourself and ask whether that's really what you want to do. I know that people say, oh, unless you do a master's, it's the next course these days. Back in the day, 10th grade was enough. Now you need a master to get forward in your career. Don't do it because that's what everyone else is doing. Do it because it really helped you and it aligns with your career plan, what you want to do in your next 10, 20, 30 years. You got to understand that not only are you spending money, of course, a lot of money goes into it, you're spending your energy, time, effort, and you are also spending opportunities in work that you could have gotten instead of going for a master's immediately out of university. So look within yourself and really evaluate your return on investment. Is this a worthy venture or not?
So the suggestion that I have is firstly finalize the course that you want. So course comes first, then the universities, and then finally the countries. Because if you're not finalized with the course that you want, it means that you really don't want to do masters. It's just the trend that is going on and that attracts you right now. So you need to have a specific reason why you want to do your masters. You need to like have a vision for yourself for the next 3 years or 5 years if you're pursuing masters. So yes, first would be finalize the course and look into other opportunities what the course offers and what other countries offers, or like are there any similar courses to that. And my second advice would be to build a strong profile when you're doing your engineering, your bachelor's. So because a strong profile, like apart from your grades, your academics, your extracurricular activities matters a lot when you're applying for education abroad, because like universities abroad, they do value a lot of extracurricular work and the like volunteering work that you have done. So yeah, build a strong profile.
This is a fun journey, but it is an equally tough journey. So do not compare yourself with others. Like do not say, okay, my friend is going to US, I too will join him, I too will go to US. Look at what suits you. When you are searching for your degree, look at your future. You have to analyze that, okay, when I am taking this degree, I can either go into research or this is the kind of job that I want to go in. Keep that in mind while deciding your degree, your country, and your college.
Thank you. So, Apoor, you being the episode lead, I would want you to wrap up.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. So, first of all, thank you so much, guys, for, basically breaking down the most crucial part of uh, going for masters, which is deciding where you want to go and what you want to do, then how you can actually apply for that stuff. So, the preparation involved in that, and finally, the actual application process and all of the stuff that is involved in that. Thank you so much for breaking it down. I'm particularly very grateful because I am actually planning to go for masters next year, for MBA rather, to Japan, which is neither of these countries. But it is a very insightful conversation because it gives you an insight into how, like, you guys have broken down very beautifully the internal struggle, the external struggle, and the general struggle that goes on in our lives when it comes to stuff after our graduation. So that was really well done. Thank you so much for that. Now, coming to the audience, you guys have multiple ways to listen to us, and you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, etc. All of the places where you can get your podcasts. And even more importantly, as Sampada ma'am mentioned, if you do have any questions, we will also be posting this on the official LinkedIn of IUCWE. So if you have any questions, you can ask it in the comments. Anything that has not been covered in this particular episode or the part two of this episode will be answered by either the relevant people from this particular episode or just a general answer from our team. So you guys can rest assured we will try to answer as much as we know. And beyond that, as I just mentioned, it's available everywhere. You guys can go ahead and listen and watch. And I just like to, sign off with our regular catchphrase, which is you can join us at Stucratic FM when your life tunes you out.